Global Mafia, what's the deal? What we on? Today, you know, I got another compilation of non-mainstream media with the news not gonna show you, but you need to see. We gonna disassociate from that indoctrination that the system tried to give us our whole life and get some new information and a new foundation on what's really going on. Through it all, always protect your energy, be in control of your emotions, and be aware of your surroundings and your situation. With that being said, appreciate the support. Hit that hype button. Let's get to this whole video. It's going to tell a story. Drop them globes in the chat.
Cash Global TV.
This is some weird shit.
The Iranian ghoul. Often it's ghost-like or tall and lanky, sometimes appearing as a woman. Caravans, historically, they'd be going through like the desert, and then, you know, they'd pause or they'd see this lanky figure up on a dune and they would hear help. It became so known that this is what it is. If you see the figure, do not go after it, because what it would do is it would lure like someone who would fall for it further and further and further away from the caravan. And eventually there's stories of like being killed, being consumed, just going missing. Like, but then there are stories where people had actually seen the creature, remote areas, pretending to be a woman in need of help. And so one of the instances are on this caravan, and instead of being off in the dunes, like seen as a silhouette, this woman was kneeled over on the side of the road, whimpering for help. The person gets out of the caravan, walks up to the woman, puts his hand on her shoulders, like, do you need something? And she looks up, and her face is half animal and warped. Apparently this dude runs, gets away, but she goes in pursuit before giving up and then darting back off.
Oh gosh, it's so scary.
The tell is if the woman's foot or feet are on backwards, it's a ghoul.
Very cool.
Sounds like a skinwalker.
Feet on backwards? Scariest cryptid, a damsel in distress.
Say a name in the dark long enough and eventually something starts listening. Dantalion is one of those names that keeps appearing in old grimoires, especially in the Ars Goetia, where he's described as a duke, but not the kind that rules land of armies. He rules minds. He's said to appear with many faces, sometimes shifting, sometimes layered, like you're not looking at one being, but at many thoughts at once. And that detail matters because Dantalion isn't associated with chaos or destruction in the way people expect from demonology. He's linked to perception, to what people feel, what they hide, what they don't say out loud. That's why people call on him. Not for power in the obvious sense, but to understand others, to influence emotions, to uncover what someone is really thinking, to bend attention, attraction, and even desire. In older texts, he's described as teaching all arts and sciences, but more importantly, revealing the inner workings of the human mind, almost like a mirror. But one that doesn't just reflect you, it shows you others.
12,000 mirrors in Dunhang, China can generate solar energy even after sunset. Here's how. They all reflect sunlight onto one central tower, heating molten salt to over 500 degrees Celsius. And that heat gets stored because your internet doesn't shut off at sunset, but solar usually does. This plant fixes that. When the sun goes down, the hot salt keeps working, turning water into steam, spinning turbines, making electricity on demand. Just like a traditional power plant, no batteries, no coal, just stored heat. And it can run for up to 11 hours after sunset. That's how solar becomes 24-hour power.
And foremost, let me say this is wonderful for the Chinese community. But this is kind of an oxymoron, because they just put up an artificial sun. If you're not getting full potential rays and strength from the original, most powerful sun, how are you going to get it from an artificial sun? Or maybe your solar panels would last those extra 11 hours if you guys had a real sun. I don't know. Does that make sense? Let me know how y'all feel about it. It just seemed a little unproductive.
Great news. This is transforming this into breathable oxygen. Yeah. It can be hooked up to a diesel generator, a car, a industrial power generator, a jet engine. It doesn't matter. And the coolest part is it's based off an ancient Hindu weapon. So what you're seeing up here are little plasma balls that spin so fast they expand and then collapse. It's like sonoluminescence, but in the air. It may sound complex, but it's the same process that thunderstorms make lightning with. That energy is then used to reconfigure atoms into new elements. About 120 years ago, this would have made total sense. We used to look at the periodic table in terms of frequency, and if you fold the ends together, you'd get a torus. An element's resonant geometry is basically what quantum physics is showing us. This one's overcharged so you can see the sparks. Those plasma balls are usually inside that sphere and they reconfigure the geometry of the atom. In every test so far, the air pollutants have been reduced to almost nothing, while oxygen has been increased sometimes close to 7,000%. That means breathable air would come out of your exhaust pipe. The part that actually does this is called the Vajra. It's an ancient Hindu object mentioned first in the Rig Veda. The closed Vajra is said to be used for transformation, which is exactly what's happening in the thunderstorm generator. The open version was depicted as a weapon of electrical discharge in almost every culture. Conceptually, similar to a Tesla coil, but the same inventor built a turbine with it. Now, when you look at the scientific papers, you'll see the resemblance to the Vajra, but it also appears it's been encoded in ancient architecture as well. If you follow me, temple tech is one of my main topics. That's the science behind the theory, and it's very popular because it's very easy to understand. I put it in every book because this will be the tech of the future.
So the Vajra, the Fascis, the old ancient tech weapons, I think they were powered by etheric energy. So he said, it seems like we're gonna be going forward with etheric energy. No, the etheric energy has always been there. We just lost the capability to be able to tap into it.
So a new conspiracy just dropped. It's about the falling meteors. Y'all gotta watch this video.
Let's talk about that purge. Monica invented the Mandaloi, a metal that doesn't melt under extreme heat. The US military used this metal to build the tips of rods from God, heavy tungsten cylinders dropped from space that hit like nuclear bombs without the fallout. Monica vanished in June 2025 because she knew exactly how these weapons were built. If she stayed in the public eye, she could have identified the technology the moment it was used. Now in October 2025, sensor expert Jacob Pritchard and human interface specialist Jamie Gustitis were killed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They were the ones that programmed the AI to steer those orbital rods to their targets. They were killed to ensure no one could testify about the specific software signatures used in these strikes. In February 2026, astronomer Carl Grillmeyer was shot. He managed the satellite data that tracks objects in space. He was silenced because he saw the test runs of these orbital weapons hitting the moon. He was the only person who could prove that the meteors people saw were not natural. They were man-made weapons. Then you have the General McCasland. He was the head of the AFRL and the man who oversaw all these people. He vanished on February 27, exactly one day before the war in Iran began. The next day, the US hit 900 targets in Iran with perfect precision. There were no planes, no missile trails because the weapons were dropped from space. Every person on that list was a witness to the construction of a weapon system. The level of precision, targeting the supreme leader in the bunker within the first hour. And in the first 2 days, 14 high-ranking commanders were eliminated. This suggests space-based weaponry.
If you guys remember, I made a video about the retired general that went missing. Well, it turns out that everyone that was under his command is either missing or dead. And what they were working on was something that had to do with outer space. And the guy who tracks objects that fall from the sky, that fall from space onto Earth, has been killed because allegedly he tracked some signatures that were shot at the moon. They used the moon for practice, and now he's there. Because here's the thing, there have been an insane number of meteors in the last few days that it has made no sense. From Texas to California to Arizona, like there have been an insane number of meteors in the United States. But anyways, that's the new conspiracy right now, is that United States government now has access to space-based weapons. I don't know if it's a real gun or not, but hey.
What if I told you guys that these three people, a missing general, a missing rocket scientist, and an astrophysicist that is now deceased, are all connected? Let's get into it. First, let's start with General McCaslin, who was in charge of the UFO research lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, who is still missing after he went hiking. Now, it's important to note that he left behind his phone and his Apple Watch, which almost seems like he doesn't want to be tracked and or found. He was in charge of the UFO research team at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but this wasn't the only Air Force base he had connection to. He was also the lead commander at Kirkland Air Force Base. Now, does anybody want to take a wild guess who else worked there at the same time? Monica Reza, who is a rocket scientist, but also owns the patent to the super alloy metal, Mondaloy, which changed the game for rockets going into space. Who was, just like McCaslin, also hiking, but now also missing since last year. Are we starting to see a pattern yet? Well, if it didn't, maybe this will seal the deal, because this is Carl Grillmeyer, an astrophysicist, an expert in deep space and exoplanets, and is also now dead. Reports say he was shot and killed on his front porch by a random carjacker who was going through the neighborhood looking for cars, but here's the thing. He lives in the middle of nowhere, so either this carjacker really wanted his car or something else was afoot. Now, Grillmeyer was a lead researcher at IPEC, which is an analysis center founded at Caltech. Now, just 5 minutes down the road, the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, is also managed by Caltech. Now, remember that rocket scientist Monica Reza I just told you about? She was the director at JPL at the same time that Carl worked at IPEC. Yeah, this is part of the movie where we should all be suspicious. Also, it's important to note that JPL and IPAC work hand in hand when it comes to cross research, meetings, the whole nine. I find this all very interesting timing, being that all these people have extensive knowledge when it comes to exoplanets, space travel, UFOs, and then the government did this. They just booked the domain aliens.gov, so I'm assuming they're gonna do a UFO file dump, giving us disclosure, but the question is, what did all these people know about this? So I had to dig deeper into this, so I got one of the top remote viewers in the world, Elizabeth April, and you guys won't believe what she found. So
imagine how much information was possessed by those 3 or 4 individuals. All of those people being interconnected. There's no such thing as coincidences, and not that many and not that close. The knowledge that these individuals had could have validated or debunked anything that the government was planning to put out. I know that's just one thing. And it's a list of 100 or infinite other things. If y'all could put any other pieces together, let me know what's going on. Let's start figuring this out as a global mafia.
In the Air Canada tragedy that happened today, the front of the nose of the plane completely disintegrated after colliding with a fire truck. Now, I saw this on the news as I was at the gym, and this really caught my eye because it reminded me of something. You guys remember on September when the plane went completely through a building? Like completely through, like check this out, right through it. There's a tip right there of the plane, supposedly. This is what we were shown. The plane went through and through a building. Yet when these fragile planes hit a bird, just like this, there goes the nose. Yes, this is a much smaller plane. I get that, guys. This is just an express plane for Air Canada, but the nose completely gone after hitting a fire truck. But we're supposed to believe that a Boeing 737 or 747, whatever it was, went through and through, all through the steel beams, everything, and came out the other side. Absolutely impossible. Not possible. Now, the majority of people, probably 90% of people, know that 9/11 was a complete inside job. Just my humble opinion. A controlled demolition that was prophesized way before it happened. You still believe the official narrative of 9/11? Then you deserve your slavery. Physically impossible for a plane to go completely through those towers. And when you really dive into this rabbit hole, I don't think there was any planes involved at all. Again, just my crazy conspiracy theorist opinion. That's all. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and
we are under attack. What if I told you that somebody knew that firing was going to explode before it even happened? Not just that, he also decided to post it on Twitter. Oh yeah, and there's a lot more, but we'll get into it. It reminds me of the Charlie Kirk scenario, right? Because somehow people knew beforehand, and so much as to even post on Twitter that it was going to happen, just like the refinery. So with this refinery refinery, we already have people saying, oh, it was a normal explosion and, it's already covered, everything's fine. If that were true, then how did this man right here know and literally post about it like an hour before it happened? Oh, and by the way, completely unrelated, obviously, right? They changed the enlistment age from 34 to 42. And they're also waiving a whole bunch of stuff from 2019, 2020 to get people back in the military. I wonder why that could be. And every time the president says it's good or we won or we got it worked out, they start sending bombs right when he says it. So back to the refinery thing. I think it's odd. I've seen like 5 to 10 factory explosions in the United States over the last 2 weeks alone. What's been going on the last 2 weeks? What do you think? Who the crap is this? Something's up. And I'm not talking about all those meteors you're seeing either.
So raising the draft age from 34 to 42 is a little interesting. Still think we're extremely far away from the day that they'll enlist the draft again, but it is good to know that information. Or do y'all think it's more serious than I'm making it seem? I could be wrong.
This is Cuba, and there is no electricity anywhere because there's no oil, there's no energy, and this is what it looks like. Except that hotel, because it's a 5-star hotel. That's it. Everybody else is in the dark.
Okay, Figure Robotics. Pretty cool sorting algorithm. Its job is to turn these packages upside down. And I guess we can just take one. Let's see, we're going to take one of these packages. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Oh, figured it out. Pretty cool. Wait, oh yeah. Sorry about that again. And also this one. Its job is to flip them upside down. Yep. Yeah, it's really impressive, the Figure 03. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, God. Oh. No. Oh, what is it going to do? Let's see. Oh, got it. Nope. Yep, there it goes. Impressive.
We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country.
Those are the words of a potential war criminal, right there. And that is not the advice and counsel and direction that any Secretary of Defense should be providing our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. It puts them actually in greater danger. The Secretary of Defense is a disgraced major that was kicked out of the DC National Guard. He has no qualifications whatsoever to be the Secretary of Defense other than his extreme loyalty to the president. Again, those are the words.
I'm gonna address that dude antagonizing that robot. That was an example of a whole bunch of jobs being took, number one. And number two, you're gonna fuck around and find out when you keep antagonizing that AI robot and it go bad and turn on you. You'll see. You always have to respect the opinion of somebody who served in the Army for an immense amount of time and has served in high-level situations, intends and had to make decisions and saving lives. That's an individual who wants to save and preserve life and not put people in harm's way. So he's been on the battlefield and seen it go both ways for himself, I'm pretty sure. That was the end of that compilation. You know, I'm gonna have another one for you tomorrow. Let me know if it's a specific subject you want me to dive into. I'm your humble host, Cash, capital K, $ for the S. Shout out to the Global Community Mafia. Shout out to the OBG Global Gang members. Stay down till we come up. One person will never know everything, but as a community, we're gonna figure it all out.
Had 3-car garage in my fortress. My swag is dripping, make these whores sick. This shit come effortless. Why you sweating, hoes tryna force it? This new Louis drip from this season. I pull up yoking, serving, doing hella shit in the latest Beamer. Plenty garbage bags full of LCGs. Nigga, please, I've been jumping flights since 2013. Moving boxes, making plays, I gotta fill these orders. Load them 18-wheelers up, then get them cross the border. Matter of fact, here go my runner right now. I got your ticket, take this bag, I'ma drop you off and then you out. We out.